welcome to another episode of Mental Wellness Insights, bringing sunlight into mental illness. Today, our topic will be spirituality and mental illness. And I'm glad to introduce our youth pastor, Reverend Kimani. Welcome to speak to us about spirituality and mental illness.
Thank you.
Yeah. Introduce yourself better and then we begin.
Well, my name is Reverend Kimani. I'm born again Christian and so passionate in the youth ministry. I currently am working with the Presbyterian Church, Kajiado Parish, as a youth coordinator. And it gives me so much pleasure to serve the youths, and especially within Kajiado. And this is also an area that this topic is really relevant for. We are having this kind of challenges. We are meeting these challenges day after day. These are normal things, especially if you're a youth coordinator, because this is the age where youth are trying to find themselves, and sometimes they're also lost. But in this case, I think we're going to look at it in a more general way, not only with the youths, but even at a bigger spectrum.
Thank you for agreeing to speak to us about this. Now, to begin with, could you kindly tell us what you mean by spirituality, broadly?
Yes, I would say that spirituality, maybe we can define it as the way someone tries to find himself, find your quality, and find who you are, and especially in self-searching in relation to a deity, or in relationship to a god or a supreme being. And so these are the inner qualities, these are the inner perceptions of the intangible person within, in terms of quality, in terms of character, in terms of the real person who is you. So I would say that it's more of a personal search and a personal awareness of who the person is in relation to a supreme being, and in this case, God.
A person searching themselves in relationship to a supreme being. At what point in our lives do we start this search? And what prompts this search in a person?
Let me say, as John Mbiti said, and especially in relationship to Africans, that Africans are notoriously religious. And so in this case, the view of who you are versus, and especially when you start realizing that you're not on this earth permanently, you are mostly a sojourner, and there is also another part of you that you do not know, and maybe you've not interacted with, especially at a younger age, when you start that self-realization that, yes, I am a human being, I am an individual, and I have things within me that I need to know. And especially when we are finding our personality, this is mostly the time that we want to search our spirituality. This is when we want to connect and know exactly who we are. And so it can start very early. It might be dependent also on the background that we come from.
Now, talking about religion, what is the difference between religion and spirituality?
Yeah, of course they're interconnected, but not the same. Mm-hmm. Now, I would say that religion is an organized structure of worship, where you relate to a particular structure of serving God. And in this case, I would say that religion is more of an organized structure where there is a particular way we worship, there is a particular way we relate to God, and there are some things that we require to do to meet the threshold of a religion. But spirituality is more of a personal experience, an individual experience when someone is searching or maybe seeking reverence to a particular deity. Maybe for example, you've heard people say that I am spiritual but not religious.
Yeah.
It might mean that this person believes in a deity, but that person is not in a particular structure that they follow, like being in a particular religion, either Christianity or Islam or Hindu, but they believe in a deity. This causes them to seek to have a relationship with themselves, because it is more about personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, our topic today is spirituality and mental illness. Could you please tell us your view? In your view, what is mental health?
Yeah, let me begin with a disclaimer. I'm not a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And so mine would really be from the layman's point of view.
Yes, exactly.
Mental illness are conditions that are brought about by things we've either gone through. Mental illness is, they could be disorders, they could be situations that you're not sound, either in the way you think, the way you reason, that your normal daily or a normal way of reasoning has been affected by some external factor that causes you not to operate as a normal person. In other words, you are sick psychologically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, how would spirituality lead somebody to be termed as not normal mentally? How does spirituality, in what instance can spirituality lead to mental illness?
Just as I began by quoting John Beatty, you know, people have a hard relationship. People go through problems, and there are many challenges. I'm just thinking of mental illness like a bus terminus. A bus terminus where there are many vehicles that will enter from different routes, and they will also go to different routes. And so mental illness is not just a one thing. It's not it cannot be narrowed down to one thing or very small thing. It's a wide thing. But let me say this, that mental illness may come about because of the experiences that people have had, things like PTSD, and so the post-traumatic disorder. And people might be looking for solutions, and these solutions can come from very different ways. People might seek the help of the psychiatrist, and people might also, which is very normal, because normally that is either the first thing that you do, you rush to a spiritual leader because you think that they have a solution on that mental issue. And so in seeking it, there can come two things. Either the positive side, where spirituality will help you realize some of the problems that you are having, because they could also be behavioral, and so it helps you be able to narrow down and notice that this is mental illness, it has been caused by this, and because of the self-search, you can have a solution. There is also the other negative aspect of spirituality or religion, where when you get there, it can also be misdiagnosed. The cause of it can be misdiagnosed, and so you end up dealing with it spiritually, and sometimes it can also be very traumatic. Sometimes you can also be told that you are mentally ill because of either lack of faith, or you can be told you have a mental problem because of a sin, something that you did, and it is causing this. And the common language of generational curses.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to get to that. A lot of times, and especially in the African setting, we talk about curses. And a lot of times, people who are mentally ill, we say that they are cursed. Can you give us a bit of light on this issue of curses?
Now, let me approach it from two perspectives. One is the genetic part, and the other one is, in fact, there are three. There's the genetic, there's a medical, and there's also the spiritual part. Let me begin with genetic. You can come from a lineage where there is history of some of these disorders.
Yeah.
You could come from a family that suffers from stress disorder, and you can also come from a family that has what we call the manic depression, and you have a history of that. Then it means that there is a genetic connection with that. And let me look at it later as I'm connecting it with generational curse. But you can also have a problem with people who misuse substances. You can misuse drugs. You can have a long history of taking alcohol. You can also have a problem that is also medical.
Yeah.
And so all those, just as I said, it's like a bus terminus, will lead to a mental illness, but the causes are different. But there is also the issue of curses. That is when it comes from now the religious part, like now the church. Because we believe that God has said it, that if people disobey him, he will allow things like madness and those kind of things. And so we realize that if he's talking about that you can inherit, he's talking about the third and the fourth generation inheriting those kind of problems, then it means that if it is generation, then I'll go back to what I said first about genetics. Now, generations is from the word genetics.
Genes.
Now genetics is from the word genes.
Yeah.
And so it means that there is something physically that has spiritual quality that we are inheriting that is causing this problem to always appear within a particular family. And so I believe that is a connection between generational curse and mental illness, and that is where now they interconnect. But also some of the use of the drugs. It is possible to use something like bangi or cannabis sativa. It is also possible to use things like heroin that interfere with the brain, even in terms of shrinking the brain, which will also will lead to things like depression. It will lead to things like maybe bipolar disorder and those kind of things. But at some point, it becomes compulsive. Now, the compulsive part is what now we are calling addiction. If it is then addiction, then we are certain that this is demonic. Yeah, this is demonic. And if it is not dealt with, because again, drugs and cultism are quite related.
Now, can you go back to this issue of demonic?
Yes.
How? Can you explain it further? Why is it demonic when it is compulsive?
Yes. Now, one of the things that demons do is to try and enslave someone, is to try and control you so that you cannot effectively worship God and move away from God. And so some of these substances, what they do is that they come, affect the way you reason, and become a highway in your brain to be able to affect you in the way you reason. And this is why some of the people who use some of these drugs hallucinate. Some of the people cannot see what they are seeing. They cannot hear. We cannot hear what they're hearing. And sometimes they do crazy things and they're not pretending. They are seeing those things. And in most cases, these are demonic influence, which have come in through the opening of the unsober mind that is misusing drugs and substances.
So how would we know when something is demonic or when it is not demonic? How do you differentiate between illness that is demonic and illness that is not demonic?
Yes, number one, we have had doctors saying that a particular condition, they do not know actually the cause. They are saying it as a problem. Sometimes you even go through medical checkup and they tell you we are seeing nothing wrong.
Yeah.
But when we look at you, we are seeing everything is wrong. Now, I have said this. There are some physical behaviors that will lead to demonic influence. So the misuse of these substances become a door that opens wide for demonic influence. Now, when they come, remember it has started as a behavior, then as a habit, then this habit develops into a habitual behavior. Then that behavior now leads to addiction. Now, when it comes to addiction, now we are talking of demonic influence.
Can we say that it begins with somebody making this drug or this behavior an idol? Somebody starting to idolize something that moves him away from God, and the mind is always on this. And in this way, probably there's a leeway for the devil or the demons to come in. Can you talk about this?
Let me say this, that man is created to worship.
Yeah.
And not just to worship, the emptiness within us and the vacuum that God left, only God can fit that vacuum.
Yeah.
And because of that, that is why man, initially you had asked about spirituality, that is why man, even when they do not know God, they will kind of recognize a supreme being, or there is someone up there who is in control or superior to themselves. Now, if that essence of worship, a human being is not meant to live without God. And living without God means that there is a particular hunger within you that you want to fill it with something.
Yeah.
And sometime you end up filling that space. In the quest for filling that vacuum, you might come across drugs, which you think might bring that fulfillment. Now, when you begin using them, and remember that demons have a desire to be worshipped, have a desire to take the worship of God. And so they take advantage of those drugs. And why addiction? Is because it is something that you feel you cannot live without. And you feel like your life is nothing without you being in the situation that the drug puts you in. Just recently, I was talking to a young man who told me that he cannot get sleep unless he takes something. He cannot be able to talk even to people. He does not have the confidence to talk to people unless he has taken something. And that is, according to him, it is these spirits that are being sold literally everywhere. And so when that drug feels that, or that alcohol feels that gap, then it becomes what? Demonic. And so it creates the desire to that behavior now enslaves you. Remember, the Bible talks about us not allowing anything to enslave us.
Yeah.
That not to allow ourselves to be slaves to the body.
Yeah.
When we allow the body to become our master, then we are subjected to the demonic worship.
Now, we are mentioning demons a few times, but probably there's somebody out there asking themselves, what is this demon? Can we just briefly, so that everybody is on the same page?
Now, in a very layman way, I would say that demons are part of the fallen angels and fallen spirits who are in rebellion of God. And their work is to deter people away from receiving God's blessings and receiving eternal life. I would say that they are the ground level agents that work for the devil to be able to influence people away from God.
Thank you. They are agents of the devil.
Yes.
Is it proper to say they are the opposite of angels?
Yes, I would say that. Only that we realize that every kingdom has authorities, and it has levels. That is why even in the Bible you'll hear of the Archangel Michael, you'll hear of the Archangel Gabriel, and the servant angels and all that. And so even demons, there are demons that you'll find that, like what is spoken of in Daniel chapter 9 about the prince of air, or the prince of Persia. So demons are like the ground level who have a desire to possess the body and affect human beings from inside, either through compulsion to evil, or addiction to a particular behavior that will deter you from worshiping God.
Okay. Yes, we probably are getting deeper, but let's come back to spirituality and mental illness. And the Bible tells us that the devil comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Now, when you talk about demons and their enslaving, how do we explain this fact that they want to take advantage of somebody to the point where this person is not able to relate to himself and to be normal?
Yeah, I would say that the main function of the devil, just as you have said in John chapter 10 and verses 10, that the thief cometh not but to kill, to steal, and to destroy. And definitely he will have to use something. Now, when you hear of stealing, it means that sometimes a thief may not necessarily come. This is not a robber. A robber will mug you and take forcefully what you have. But a thief will come cunningly. He will come inconspicuous. He will come incognito. Because you might not realize that he's stealing from you. That is why we will begin with something like a drug. And sometimes it is just like some codeine, some of the antidepressants, like some of the very correct things that we use in the hospital. And then those things are abused. When they are abused, we have what we call the drug tolerance. Drug tolerance is when the body now does not respond to the reason why you took it, either because of overusing it. Because, for example, if you take one Piriton today and you feel asleep, by the end of the week, you might be forced to add 2. In other words, your body is becoming tolerant to that drug. And so, because of this, you go improving and increasing the rate. That is why there are people who will not only use alcohol, they cannot get drunk on alcohol. They have to use a concoction of a number of drugs for them to get high. And so, this is what demons will do. Number one, they'll give you a very unnatural thirst and give you that hopelessness to show you the desperation that you cannot do without it. And then you long for it. Then you'll go for it in whichever way. The moment you begin taking it, you become hooked to it. And that is now where the level we are calling addiction. You are so addicted to it that you cannot live without, you feel that you cannot live without it. And it, to some extent, when you use some of these drugs for a long time, if you happen to leave it immediately, then you again develop other complications. Yeah. And so that is how now the demonic work comes in. It will start small. Then after that, after stealing the idea, he'll make sure that he kills what you have and will kill either the talent, will kill the natural you, the who you are, and make sure that at the end of the day, you're so destroyed such that you are almost irreparable. There are people who have died in drugs, there are people who have died in addictions, there are people who are even addicted to funny things like food, because it is a compulsive problem that will eat, get a lot of weight, gain so much weight, and then develop into other complications. So that is the level that the demons play.
Is there, okay, moving away from demons a little, is there addiction to a religion?
Yes, and it's a very, very, very dangerous one. This is what I said about the negative aspect of religion.
Yeah.
Now, remember that man also has a tendency to want to be worshipped. That is why even most of our politicians and some of our spiritual leaders, they want to keep on being told that they are the best, they are above others, and all those kind of stuff. And so, man in essence will want to be worshipped. And it is actually man who leads a religion. And as we have said, that religion is a structured organization.
Yeah.
And it is trying also to show people that they have the answer to everything. Now, some of the religion, instead of being the agents of pointing people to God, they point people to themselves, so that they have the answer, they are the way, their words is a truth, and whatever they believe in, they can offer life. And so they make people dependent on them. In other words, and then to be able to make you avoid knowing the truth, they will read and interpret the Bible for you, and then they will say that they are the only ones who have a solution to your problem. In other words, they cause an addiction. They cause an addiction to you. You become addicted with them.
Let me summarize the first part of this episode of Spirituality and Mental Illness by reading the following 2 quotes. Take care of your inner spiritual beauty. That will reflect your face, by Dolores de Rio. Part of spiritual and emotional maturity is recognizing that it's not like you are going to try to fix yourself and become a different person. You remain the same person, but you become awakened. By Jack Confield. Thank you indeed for watching this first episode of Spirituality and Mental Illness. Be sure to watch the next episode next week. Please remember to subscribe, click on the notification bell, share. We also would love to hear your comments. Please, whenever you watch a video, it will help us if you comment. We would also want to hear what you'd want us to bring in the next episodes. Thank you and God bless you.